So recording,
Okay,
we got it.
See in
Okay.
chat, we got it, see the chat, Jen. Jen, pull up chat and see if they're saying.
okay. And then, so they did, so we started with NCRC and I'll explain why. That is such a vital part of what we do. The customer service certification, it teaches two things. It teaches both internal customer service. It also teaches external. The other certificate of work ethic proficiency. That certificate of work ethic proficiency is really targeted at, bring your A game. You guys might already know that. And then she moved into commercial driver's license. And what's happening in here is a student that is moving from $14 an hour, now making a living wage at $28 an hour. And that's what happens when we start to stack our credentials and support students through the pathways. We have a student over there. So Yetzel started out in our ELL programs, completed the ELL program, graduated, and is now on his way and he graduated the credit program in healthcare. So one of the things to pay attention to is we talk about our students on pathways.
Yes, I have a question. You mentioned Aztecs. We use Aztec. What other software do you use to get them their training that they need?
Yeah, so underneath Aztec, it's like turning on another module is probably the best way to explain it. So you purchase just this additional package that goes with it. And they have an IET package that goes along with Aztec. So that's why that partnership really works really, really well.
Thank you.
Yes, but it's another module. If you talk to your sales rep, they'll know exactly what you're talking about and they'll get it connected. All right.
Good. Oh, goodness. And that doesn't work. Okay.
Forgive us, guys, for technical difficulties.
Okay, so because it is a grant and it was important that we actually show that we're developing measures of success, can you go ahead and just look through? One was, as I said, we needed to enroll 2,000 African American Latinx across the 3 sites over the period of 2 years. So we looked at the baseline. So it's not just enrolling 2,000, it's enrolling 2,000 more than what we had. So doing that over 2 years. We needed to ensure 70% of the student participants attain a locally relevant short-term stackable credential, and we are not counting the NCRC in that pool. It's they earn the NCRC and then they need to earn another stackable credential. Increasing semester persistence, that they continue. This goes back to, so they earn the NCRC, they earn another short-term stackable credential, and then they persist. They go on to do something else. We want to improve their NCRC scores from first and second testing. And then the big one is developing the toolkit that will be made for free to all work-ready communities, showing, you know, these are the different models that the different sites, work-ready communities use. These are the lessons learned, and just developing and adding in the toolkit all of these wonderful tools that they come up with. So. Then it's you.
So there's really, one of the strategies that we looked at is, and some of our success is we work with our high barrier populations, just like you do. We have a 90% retention rate 6 months after employment. That is huge because we really focus on not just a job, but the better job or a career. And that's a real focus. We have to be able to support people into living wages, things that they're excited about, things that they want to be there for. MCC students, 94% retention rate 1 year after employment. The industry averages hover right around 50% for most industry sectors. So that is huge. We have a proven verifiable means to determine applicants' job skills. And that is why we partnered with ACT. We needed something, we needed a tool
that was able to align students all the way through, from any of the foundational academic skills we needed to provide and where they were at, and link that to jobs. Understand their foundational skills that we could train them with through WorkKey's curriculum, and also Aztec curriculum, and also Burlington English. So we've married those three. And then also, how do we connect to the jobs? And that's really what the WorkKey stuff does for you all the way through that pathway. And I haven't seen anything else that has done that. And also increase on the job productivity. So that's why, I mean, that's why we did what we did. One of the things to really understand also, and that's where the WorkKey system comes in, and remember, we started with a work-ready community. We understand partnerships is absolutely key. So for example, when you're developing an integrated education and training, at the end of the day, why do they do it? They do that because they want a job. And for our community, we had to identify who the key players were. And honestly, that all the work-ready communities was for us, was our strategic plan. And it brought everybody together. It was an easy blueprint to follow that we didn't have to make up along the way. Understand the role of each program, share what we did to create partnerships. We had Heartland Workforce Solutions, which is our American Job Center, MCC, K-12. We have a lot of school districts in our area, the Greater Omaha Chamber, Business Champions, and Human Service Agencies, all at the table. Human Service Agencies will recruit and send people through our pathway. And then over here with this incredible talent, they help them get trained, educated, and then our career coaches move them into jobs. Our business champions are the people on the other end. Our workforce system and our American Job Center is a key component of what we do. They're not only a recruitment tool, but they're also a funding strategy. Champions, one of the things we did was we found influential stakeholders and people who wanted to do this. We went with the willing, not the unwilling. And then the unwilling kind of joined. And then partners have a shared responsibility in the outcomes and the goals. All of that we did was really to address one crucial thing that happens within our community. Because right now in our area, there are 33 applicants for every 100 jobs. So that means there are not enough human bodies in our state, and there's not enough human bodies in the nation to fill those jobs. Well, we have ready-made pool of individuals who are at our programs in our educational institutions wanting to do better. And so one of the things we had to do is figure out how to address the cliff. Because the cliff is what happens when somebody who receives assistance for survival, they make a little bit more than they should and they lose everything. 8% of adults in the Omaha area have less than a high school diploma. That's about 27,000 individuals. And that's our service area. 71% of the jobs in Nebraska will require a post-secondary education for training. So now you see it, the cliff. The net result is that people who start out in poverty are likely to stay in poverty if they don't earn a high school credential and go on to gain skilled workforce through credentials, certifications, and things like that. And they're there. They're at your college already. They are there with you wanting to engage. So now our goal is to get them to engage. Here's the other little fun fact, and I borrowed this from my friend Bronwyn over in Mississippi. With our BLS data. So when I had mentioned, right, 33 jobs for every 100 postings, it's not an entry level, and it's not in the bachelor's degrees. That is not where the jobs are sitting. The jobs are actually sitting in the mid-level skills, which means it requires an associate's degree or less. Most of them require credentials. If you look here in the low skills, there are more workers than there are jobs. The same is starting to happen up for us who are like in the bachelor's, master's and above. There are more workers than there are jobs available. This is where the opportunity is for our students. So one of the things is to know that there is a solution. And honestly, this will get you where the work keys and the work ready communities will help connect all of those dots that you're needing. We talked about that. Okay, and one of the things we started with was a theory of change. So we talked about what our current condition is. So what you can do is start with what is our current condition? Our adult education learners face challenges to access education. Identify what those challenges are. Transportation, childcare. I can't take time off of my low wage job to participate in your educational program, no matter what the wage is going to be on the other end. Find out what are these barriers and how can you address those. Access to education. Our students, all of our students are students, right? We are one college. And so when a student comes into our program, well, they got to register. Well, what does that mean for an English language learner? What does that mean for our program when there's 87 different languages spoken in our school or in our programs, right? So what does that look like? What employers face? They're facing a talent shortage. And then learners face challenges with support to complete. There's no one in their corner. That's where we are. We're in their corner. So then as we started to look at the ecosystem, what are we going to embed for this ecosystem? Outreach and assessment of unemployed and underemployed WIOA eligible individuals. Something that may surprise you, individuals who are at the American Job Center, 87% of them lack the foundational academic skills necessary to complete and successfully engage in an education program. Well, that may be a barrier for them to be able to be successful without help. We focused on all academic areas. We focused on supports. What does that look like? Work-based learning opportunities with our employers, employer engagement. There are at least 3 employers for every training program ready to hire the students. So the employers are actively engaged in our educational programs. They're coming, they're saying, come work for us. We have secret codes for HR hiring if we need them, because we're preparing them for those jobs and addressing skills gaps. We also use an integrated education and training model.
What do you mean secret codes for HR, like for them to identify that they came from the program?
No, actually, what we have found, for example, with Google Star, that's one of our programs. Well, Google is building data centers in the Omaha, Council Bluffs, Iowa, Nebraska area, right? Lots of great paying jobs. And however, if you apply through their front-facing HR process, they don't see you as quickly as you would like them. And so they gave us this is the other way to get in. And so a lot of times our business partners will give that to us so that our students are hired. And it's not so daunting. The impact is workers have accessible and equitable on-ramps to education and employment pathways that lead to H3 jobs. Now, does everybody know what an H3 job is? H3 is high wage, high skill, and high demand. Every state, I do believe, but definitely in Nebraska, our Department of Labor has identified what those high skill, high wage, and high demand jobs are and what education they're needing. And then we focus our training programs according to that pathway. This is a little bit about stackable and portable and the costs associated with each piece of that, and how it's funded. We won't spend a lot of time on this one, but one of the things that I really wanted to stress with this is that we do a lot of braided funding, and I could do a whole session on braiding funding. But in order for this ecosystem to work, what we did was we started braiding the funds. We identified how do we all work together and how do we leverage our resources accordingly. And that was, again, we really needed that tool to make that happen. Which is why we're doing the ECMC project. And we've been working with ACT for a long time on developing this ecosystem. And we're at now probably what we would call 2.0 of work-ready communities. So in a nutshell, this could be like somewhat daunting, but the colors are gorgeous, but they actually mean something. So these colors are aligned with Holland codes. And the other thing is, if you ever look at CTE and the wheel, the career and technical education wheel, it aligns up there and it aligns with the NCRC. So when a person comes into our program, they take the NCRC, which is aligned with the national, with NRS tables and college and career readiness standards. So here, if somebody takes and they get a bronze and they're saying, I want a job as a bank teller. Well, then we know what that means. If you're pre-bronze, then we've got some skilling to do, but we don't ever use it like, oh, well, that's too bad. You can't go, right? We use it as, this is the most powerful information that we have on how to support you so that you can go here, you can be an air traffic controller, you can go and get your CDL, you can go into IT, you can go into healthcare, all of the pathways are available for you. And this is what that NCRC tells us. Here's our academic focus areas at the college. So raise your hand if you guys have academic focus areas at your college or institution. And this is just really the degree programs that students go into. Okay, and this very handy dandy little chart, if you zoom into it, basically what we have done is we've developed a tiered approach for every one of our academic focus areas. Tier 1 starts with our adult education programs. And so we have right now a healthcare pathway, and we'll do that healthcare pathway right here. If you're looking at the healthcare professions, Tier 1 is our adult education, English language learners. They take the NCRC, they do CPR, first aid, and that gets them their first pathway. And then what's really neat is we collaborate with the dean of healthcare. And he said, you know what, why don't we run this one as a credit? So the students, this is an IET for students who are engaged in their adult ed program. They are level 5, level 6s, about ready to complete their high school equivalency in English language learning programs. And they've said, I want to go into healthcare. Our dean says, this is easy, this is low-hanging fruit. Why don't we do the CPR first aid? I can award 1.5 credit hours for it. This will help get them going. The next tier is they go into pharmacy, phlebotomy, EKG, CNA, mental health technicians. There's a lot of opportunities in that next run for students when they start to bridge out of the programs. And they lead to meaningful jobs at wages that will let them put some food on their table. Our tier 3 is when they want to go into the advanced programs. Some of them are credit, some of them are non-credit. And that could be like advanced firefighting, basic firefighting, fire science, health data information. So the world is big, and then we talk about wages and what students can earn in those professions as they move from here, where they thought they were just going to be with us up here. And now we're going, well, you're here. Why not go to here? You're here. Why not go to here?
Person of all the questions, sorry.
Yeah, no,
Love
questions
that.
are good.
On that top tier 1 level, like how obviously in adult education, you get very, very entry level. Is that included in that tier 1, or is that like taking off from the top basic?
Nope, it's that tier 1 is level 1, very, very basic. education all the way through. Sometimes tier one, our students, the time frame that they're with us, it is about 3 to 3.5 years. If they start in that very, very basic,
But
level one.
the subject matter in those level one, tier one is just pertaining to health professions, so they get used to it. Is that what the main difference?
No, what it is they've identified healthcare at the front end. So when they come into our programs, we're asking them, what do you want to do? Why are you here? What are your goals? What are your career goals? All of that happens at intake. Well, now we're putting that to some use. So rather than taking that intake paperwork that we all do and putting it in a file somewhere, we put it to work. So the student, when they start their journey, has already identified that. So what we've really worked at is aligning educational and employment goals. That's at the very beginning. Joint development of metrics for tracking students' progress, employment, wage data, sponsorships, apprenticeships, what are all of those? But we've enhanced our coordination and shared accountability for student success. I wanted to share a little bit here. We've been tracking our students for a long time, and these were our students at the very beginning. If at the very beginning during intake, you've identified what academic focus area they want to go into, what do they want for a career? This is our credit numbers. So for our credit numbers, in 2021, for our students, we had 40% of our population, 255 students transition from adult ed into credit programs. 33% in 21-22. 28%, and the percentages get a little skewed because our numbers get bigger and bigger and bigger. But really, as you can see, for these past 3 years, we've had almost 1,000 students transition into credit. And that does not include the students that have gone into the non-credit pathways. And that's what makes us very, very powerful. Google is one of those really strong partners that we have. And Google worked with us to develop a construction program and a fiber optics program. And our fiber optics programs, as you can watch, students are moving into living wage jobs. One of the most important things to know is that we are not forcing students to go into something because that's all we've got. And that is so important. Students really need an opportunity to choose. If somebody told me that I was going to be driving a truck, a semi truck, and I was getting my CDL, I would have lost my job. Number one, I got a lead foot. Number two, I whip in and out of traffic like it ain't nobody's business. And so imagine me in a truck, would not work. So bad choice of an occupation. Our students have the same thing. Why would we force them all to become CNAs and go into nursing professions if that has nothing to do with what they want to do with their lives? Increase enrollment and completion rates due to reduced financial obstacles. This is one of the other key things, the most influential things when you're talking about grading funding. We find those resources that can provide and address the basic skills needs or the basic needs that somebody has to have in order to participate. If they have to take time off of a low wage job in order to participate in something that's going to give them a high wage, for example, CDL is one of them. It's 40 hours a week. It's 6 weeks long. Yes, we're moving them into over $50,000 a year jobs, but there's a but at the other end of that. They got to feed themselves, they got to feed their families. So how do we do that? And that's by working with our WIOA partners and finding ways to do that, working with our businesses.
I have a question. Do you have problems getting funding through WIOA? Because we do. They're written in our grants. I mean, we're supposed to be using them. We make referrals. No one ever calls them. We go to workforce meetings. They act like they have money. And the next time we go, they don't.
We never get a response.
Yeah, so finding your champions is really, really important. So one of the things that we have discovered is that the Title I funding that comes through WIOA can in some cases be a challenge to collaborate and coordinate on. So what we do is we use their funds in order to build the ecosystem. So sometimes that means a student will start out in WIOA and they'll just come to us. And that's how the relationship works. I would like to say that every single student already has it because we've been so good at enrollment. But what we've done is we've figured out where it fits and where it doesn't fit. So some cases WIOA funding has just been at the forefront and helped pay for an educational program. And we do have those cases, but more often than not, they're just a referral into our current ecosystem. But because of that partnership, we're able to apply for funds that help that. So for example, the career,
Or do you mean because they're categorically related?
yes. And also like we applied for a joint grant for career readiness to eliminate disparities is what it's called, for the city of Omaha. Because we have a solid partnership, we were able to secure $900,000. If I did it in a silo on my own and tried to create my own workforce board and my own workforce ecosystem, I would not have access to that pool of
We
funds.
have a large technology center that we're based out of. We have credit recovery for high school students and the GED program for adults and some teenagers. But we also have a new thing called Work Ready Oklahoma. And I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's like a training program to get a livable wage, but the goal is to get them be able to work from home. So, and then we're about to do the TANF program again. We haven't had it at our campus for a while, but they're revamping the whole TANF program for Oklahoma. And they're gonna be using our GED program and the Work Ready Oklahoma that's already created for resources. And then we have short and long-term programs on our campus. So a lot of that, a lot of the things you're talking about, we already have them in one spot.
That is really, really cool. So what I would say is I call it competitive collaboration, right? So together you bring more money into your community than separated. So even if WIOA is not like 94% of the individuals covering 94% of the individuals we serve, that ecosystem probably far exceeded what WIOA could do. And that's what happened with career readiness to eliminate disparities.
We used to do the work. Don't we?
No, we quit doing it. Ardmore used to be a huge work key city, and then that went away. And so therefore, we no longer did the work keys.
Yeah, so for us, it's a tool.
Yeah.
Right? For us, it is one of the most valuable tools to align everything that you're talking about. Right? How do you identify if there are lacks in those foundational academic skills? How do you identify that? How do you connect that to jobs? And here's the other thing that I love about like the NCRC component of it. When I have an adult learner, who is an English language learner, and they have an advanced degree from their home country and they take the NCRC, they don't feel like I'm trying to make them do the GED because to them, they don't need the GED. So why are you making me do it? So, and also for our individuals who lack those foundational skills, we do the NCRC because they may have a high school equivalency, but they need some additional help with those foundational skills, those ABE things. Well, if I send them to a CASAS and utilize the CASAS assessment, which is great, it tells us a lot of useful information. But that person taking it feels like, I already got my high school diploma. Why are you making me do this? The NCRC has none of that. In fact, we just tell them, congratulations, you completed your very first certification.
I have a question, and I'm not sure if this question should be at the end or not, but based on what they said that they no longer do work keys. We're actually considering work keys, but I was told it's currently not tangible. I don't know what that means yet, but I was gonna ask, what are some of the challenges or roadblocks y'all face before implementing work keys? And like I said, if it's not right now, if it's at the end, that's okay.
Oh, no, that's a really good question. So the challenges are for us, and the way that we overcame them. So one of the things that helped us to really have this embedded as part of that ecosystem is understanding what WorkKeys actually is. So what it actually is, while yes, it is a product, for us, we don't treat it like it's a product that we're trying to solicit and sell to businesses. It is actually one of the most valuable resources and tools that we have in our ecosystem. To be able to identify and connect ONETs with our businesses. It's aligned with college and career readiness standards. Students are happy to do it because it's a certification and not another test that they got to take every so hours, right? That is why it, huh?
The NCRC
Mhm.
is a certificate when they take that test. It's a
Yeah, yeah, it is a credential. Yeah, they get a credential.
And you can do that instead of like process that.
We don't do it instead. We have to follow our state rules while I am trying to get and convince that to happen. We do both. We do both.
But
And-
if it's approved within their state.
Yes,
This isn't a
yeah,
broad one.
yeah,
We do
Mississippi.
classes, so we'd probably be in
It's
the
your
same
state.
situation.
Yeah, Mississippi uses the NCRC and so we're trying to follow, they use NCRC and TABE. We use CASAS and I'd like to add the NCRC to that. And we're still working on that component and putting it into LACES. The other thing is, if you're working with any opportunity youth in our ecosystem, when you're connecting like with WIOA, one of the things, their youth funds that go from, there's a huge overlap in their youth funds that starts from 18 to 24. Well, that is another pool of funds. And so it allows us to have a broader reach. To address those barriers to education and employment.
You can take the next time to find the next route.
I don't know, what time were we supposed to end? Forgive us if we went over.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, good, so we have
If
5
there's
minutes
any
for
additional
questions.
questions.
So Cindy is our expert and has been with us on this entire journey the whole time. But what I will say is developing the ecosystem, again, it's a tool, right? You're not on it on your own. They help you develop the strategic plan that you need so that you can connect all of these dots. And you don't have to try to figure it out on your own. They give you all of the tools that you're needing to connect the dots and make it all the way through, so that you have, viable integrated education. and
Would
training.
you like the questions from the chat?
Yeah, yes.
All right, so the first question is what exciting insights and discoveries await us in this topic?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, the exciting insights and discoveries is that we're actually moving people through this pathway, and it is not just so one of the things I like to say is there are poster children. The cool thing is I have so many of these that I could fill. It's part of our ecosystem now. We don't have the one-offs who occasionally were successful that we're celebrating. It's our students, it's our population, and that's what I wanted to show with those numbers that were going into credit and the numbers going into non-credit. It's part of our ecosystem.
The others were just comments, so thank you.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you. Yes, yes.
So how much was your financial investment?
Thank you,
The-
ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's the adult ed program. How much comes out, and how much do you have to pay?
For the NCRC.
Yeah, to get a student from,
Oh,
started, what is it?
so our funding, we actually look at it, as, funding the actual program. So funding the actual program, our program is about, almost $4 million a year to operate. But there's a couple of things. that work-ready communities allowed us to do that. So when I first moved into our adult education program in 2017, our budget looked more like about 700,000. But we then developed that ecosystem, and then I call it competitive collaboration. Look, if WIOA Title I is using their resources right for students, well, then how do we be that connector with that? And so that's how it's grown.
It's truly amazing what you're doing.
It is.
Yeah, but it's all that ecosystem. It truly is the ecosystem. Businesses are at the table. We know who they are. How do we know who they are? Because they signed on for work-ready communities. Right? Our integrated education and training that we're doing, how do we do that? Well, SNAP Employment and Training is one of our partners and they pay for it. Yeah. No,
Just to let you know why I'm asking these questions, I'm not in the, teachers, I'm in outreach and marketing, I find out how to get the word out there, and this is my biggest thing, this right here. What you're talking about is why I took a picture of them, because getting that idea that you can get that tier 1 stuff, which is all you're thinking about, and get them to understand that they can, overcome that hurdle and take that next one and that next one and that next one, right? Would you consider this, like an academic tool, like it helps with the academic side, like aligning the programs and getting the accreditations, as well? Is there a marketing side of it? Because you're saying that the employers are at the table, are they a part of the tool? I'm trying to understand what the tool.
It was really impressive. I get to do site visits as part of the grant. And I listened to Tammy present for years and I never truly understood it. But we went to graduation and she literally had the tier 1 students, tell me if I'm lying, the tier 1 students were graduating with like the tier 2 and the tier 3. And the tier 3 are talking about you tier 2 and tier 1, come on, you can be like me. And then the tier 2 were saying, hey, you tier 1, come on over here. And then entire audience, she had, the people were talking and they were like talking, you could tell they were talking. You can do this too if you stop playing games on your iPhone. I mean, you could tell, it was like, that was marketing and outreach that I thought was the most impressive. This is telling the visual story, but getting up there and you get a whole family to start going. You hit those other generations. So
Change lives.
yeah, that was really, but the other part was I think it was next time, I can't remember. They were graduating, it was the Google Star, I don't know if that's up there, but it was actually put on by Google. Like, it was this really fancy thing with full dinner and everything. And the Google people spoke at it, and it was like, these are like real employers who really value what's being done. And that was what I was very impressed, but it's that support. And I know I've heard you say you won't run a program unless there's an employer sponsor.
Yeah.
That says we want to hire your people.
Yeah.
It's not like a guaranteed job, but
But
you
does
know
the
there's a
sport
job.
keys help organize and receive those and align them with the
So if
programs? Is
you,
that
if
what
you
know what I
participate,
mean?
yeah, if you participate in like the work-ready communities, so the question was, does WorkKeys help align the ecosystem and all of that? So that is the purpose of the work-ready community, the way I explain it at least. It's really to be there as like a strategic planning tool. I heard you refer to that as a strategic planning tool. Like, oh, that's how I'm gonna talk about this from now on. And so the work-ready communities helps bring the stakeholders together. They help you set shared mutual goals and then really pull together your resources to create an ecosystem that meets everybody where they are so that you all can accomplish your goals at the different levels, again, based on where you are, where you're trying to go and where you never even knew you could go. And the NCRC, the National Career Readiness Assessment, it's a certificate, it's a stackable certificate, but it's that foundational level. And the way that Tammy talks about it is like that tier 1. So it is that indicator, that trust signal that lets other certification programs or other indicators know that this individual is ready for higher levels of learning. So Jenna Cohen just earned a Gold National Career Readiness Certificate. She might be ready to start doing the learning it takes to get her CNA to then become the next level, the next level, the next level, staying on the healthcare track. And but the work ready community says, hey, we have a CNA shortage, we have a nursing shortage. We need for these different career programs to really be churning out individuals that have these skills so that I'm not getting my CNA because I watched ER as a kid, I did, but because there's going to be jobs in my neighborhood that are ready to hire me for that skill that I just earned. And again, that National Career Readiness Certificate, that's the start. That is that foundational level, that is that trust signal to whether it's another program or an employer to let you know that, hey, this person is ready to either do that on the job training or to be ready to go towards that next more technical vertical focus.
Thank you. That
Of course.
was helpful.
Yeah.
How do we get involved?
Look at me.
These guys.
Yes, so, so I'm Jenna Cohen, I'm with ACT, I was not planning on speaking today, but here I am. So I'm the Senior Director of Product, and, we have a booth down in the session where I would gladly, set you up with any of my amazing sales team. I also have cards that I can give you where you can contact me directly, and I can get you to the right set of individuals to help, give very clear answers. I'm very much theory, philosophical, here's how we get there, but you'll have me cheering for you in the background and maybe being that fire that sometimes our colleagues need.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank y'all.
Thank
You've
you.
got to make a long trek, and thank you for making the trek.
Thank
Find
you.
us. Thank you all. Okay, there's.
I know we have.
Well, if you want to know the people who do all the magic work, they're walking out the door right there. That's Erin and Russia. And both of them are the ones who set up all of our integrated education and training. That just means Russia goes and all this.
Right.
It
just, right, and so
Erin teaches all of our integrated education.
starting in July, we're doing pilots
and make sure that
and so we're in a big modernization. That is like every day. And so the modernization goals is going to include so many more connected technologies to make it more. That's what the problem is. We've got some good talk.
Yeah, that and our ecosystem, all the pieces are there, that we have a saying in Spanish, we have like a rice with mango. Instead of rice with like chicken or something, it makes sense.
We say that we have a lot of really great undisconnected pieces. So
Yeah,
I
exactly,
feel that one.
like individual spaghetti pieces.
Yeah, well,
Right.
feel free.
And then the platform is a whole other can of worms.
Thank you.
Between
Yeah,
Salesforce and
absolutely.
Workday.
Yeah.
and
Oh, we
Workday
use Workday, we use Salesforce.
But do you
We
use
use-
Workday for nonprofit?
No, we are looking at another product.
That's
We
where,
went and visited you guys
Ah.
on,
yeah, that's where we have that ecosystem that's not all connected.
Sending them to
I was
stop.
gonna say, did you guys
Can
land
you not say the
on,
front
what
of
did
it?
you guys
want
land
We're
I need to click on
still-
the screen.
Right now, we're
Oh.
still with colleague.
Yeah,
That was a little bit sarcastic.
yep, I know, we are too.